the Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. To Zion. I was lost, but now I'm found. I'm a child of Israel. I heard the sound. Shalom, shalom. Please give me the strength to stand today. With my eyes towards the east, show me the way to Zion. I'm on my knees, laying my life on the line. I'm begging, please don't let me fall. Give me the strength. Place my feet, Lord God, my path. Show me the way to Zion. To Zion, to Zion. Shalom, brothers and sisters. We're the elders of the Gathered of Christ Church here with our weekly Sabbath lesson. All praises be to the Most High, Ahayah Yashaya, the God of Israel. In the name of Christ, bless you all. Bless you. All right, we're going to jump right in. We're going to jump right into the lesson, okay? Get your pen and pads ready as we go into the lesson. When the Romans destroyed Jerusalem is our lesson. Okay? Shalom, shalom. I see a lot of familiar faces. Brothers and sisters who've been waiting for this Sabbath lesson. Bless you all. Come on in. Please hit the like button. Okay? I don't have to tell you why. It drives the algorithm. It drives the traffic to let others on the outside know that the church is actually streaming the Sabbath. All right? Someone says, I'm from Nigeria. If you need help, send an email. Send an email. All right. Jumping right in, Elder Lawyer. If we can start with the Shema.
Yes, sir. Shema Yasharahla, Ahayah, Ahayah Nawa, Ahayah Akkad.
Shema Yasharahla, Ahayah Nawa, Ahayah Nawa Akkad.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one God. Shalom, brothers and sisters. I hope you all are doing well, having a blessed Sabbath. And yes, we're going into a brand new lesson, when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem. All right? And we're going to deal with this from also an historical, archaeological, we're going to touch on it, standpoint. From a historical, archaeological standpoint, leading into the next academy, where that will be the whole theme, where we're going into the history to prove that's right, the truth concerning this Bible. The archaeology as well as the historical facts, which actually brings to light the fact that the Bible is the most profound record of our time. The most profound record. Above all books, the Bible stands. Okay? And we're going to go through that, in our Hebrew and Bible Academy next session. Okay? Next session. Now, we have about a month before we go into the new academy. But I wanted to let you all know because some people out there need that background, that proof, the references, archaeology, the science to prove to others that the Bible is real at a time where Satanists are doing what? Breaking the faith of believers. Okay? So they're trying to claim Christ never existed. The Bible was just a record written by man. The prophet were just men, minimizing its worth. And guess what? After this academy, you'll be able to defend this book with every ounce of your being. Okay? Not just dealing with the lessons of the fallen gods and the fallen angels. We're going to show you what? Archaeological proof that's in the earth that the angels fell and were revered by the Gentiles as gods. We're gonna break down who really built the pyramids. Man didn't build the pyramids. The Israelites didn't build the pyramids. They were built by gods, and I can prove it. So when we say gods, that's from a what? That's from a what you would call a Gentile perspective. They begin to worship the gods who came down to teach them technology. Well, we see them as different from a belief, Christ, God, Bible perspective, the heavenly perspective. Angels. The angels built the pyramids. The angels built a lot of these monuments. Some good. The majority of them were good. And then you have the fallen angels who built constructs. Okay? To communicate to people, to governments, to set up governments, like what we see in Mexico. Okay? They were built by the fallen ones. When you look at the pyramids of the Aztecs and Mayans. So we're going to be going into that archaeological proof that the Bible is real. All right? So if that interests you, go to historytimes.org. You don't need to go to a theologian school to understand the Bible. Okay? Just open your mind to understand the Bible. Look at it initially as any other book. Right? Honor its what? Honor its authenticity by opening yourself to it. Reading the book just like you would any other book. Okay? Start on that level. Okay? The enemy would like you to go into the book from a skeptic view, right? From a doubting standpoint. That's what the enemy would like you to do. But they'll celebrate books that man gives you, like Oprah's suggestions, okay? Or the New Age suggestions, or like your Jesuits and apologetic perspectives. No. Open up the book, if only just to get what? The literal sense, to understand what the book means. And I guarantee you, the Most High will step in. Don't look at the Bible as a skeptic. Only Satanists look to do what? Look to discredit the book. Let's get that, elder lawyer. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. Let's get that. When we say the Bible, we understand before it was compiled into the Bible, these were Hebrew scrolls. So we're not just talking about the compilation of what you see here. We're talking about valuing what? The history and the prophecies within the scrolls that were given to our forefathers. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And guess what, folks? They are our forefathers. Okay? Okay? You can't just have one people in this earth staking claim to Hebrews. And I'm speaking predominantly the Europeans who are doing so. You can't have them as the authority and the only people to stake claim or authority to our records. And you're going to find out today, those were the people who destroyed Jerusalem. The same people that are claiming out there now are the same people who are behind the demise and the destruction of Jerusalem. Right? Let's read it, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Isaiah 34, verse number 16.
Come on.
Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read.
Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. That's the Bible, folks. You don't see programs, especially in the West, seeking to destroy any resemblance of righteousness from a Judeo-Christian standpoint. You don't see them on their television shows or on their news programs looking to discredit the Quran. You never see them discrediting all the other records that are out there, but they're doing what? They make a conscious effort to have people doubt the truth of this book, which is the Bible. Okay? And folks, that's intentional. Satanists are running the world. They know the only book who can expose their lies in darkness lies in the book we're reading today, the Bible. It was the Bible and the knowledge of the Bible, its prophecy, which shook us from the dust of darkness into the light of Christ to understand that we are in fact the children of Israel. It was the Bible. Folks, the Bible is the living word of God. It lives. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read it. Not as a skeptic, because if you go into the Bible negatively, you're going to get exactly what you're looking for. It's called confirmation bias. If I go into the book looking to disprove it, I'll only see darkness. I'll only see the passages that confirm my bias against it. See? So if you're skeptical or you have a biased opinion against God and the morality, the morality standard set up, guess what? You're wasting your time going into the book seeking to prove it wrong. Because the Bible is manifold. If you go into the Bible in the wrong spirit, you'll find the wrong spirit to justify your negative views. But if you go into the Bible like a newborn baby, seeking God earnestly in spirit and in truth, he'll find you. The Most High will find you where you are and give you the insight you've always wanted. So you can't go into the Bible as a skeptic trying to prove it wrong. Okay? You can't do it. Stay away from it. If you're seeking to go in to do what? To show forth anything negative or to disprove it. Because you're going to find exactly what you're looking for. Go into it honestly. Right? Go into it like we're about to go into it. Politically today. What explains this evil world we're living under now? Why is it so? Explain this to me. How could a righteous God, the God of all gods, allow what's going on in the earth today? Is it prophetic? Do our people, do the good win on the other side of this? All right. Give me a logical reason for slavery. Right? Give me a logical reason to the chaos we see in these countries, including America, where the evil are teaching our children. They're turning our children out. They're seeking to destroy us mentally, spiritually, physically. Give me understanding to that. See, if you go into it honestly, the answers come. Right? The answers come. And I can quantify it. I'm about to go into the lesson, but I can quantify it in a couple of seconds for you. Israel, my people, I saved you out of Egypt. I took down the greatest empire in your time, the Egyptians and showed your people favor. Okay? I gave you a nation, but with conditions. That you would be the example of the God who saved you on earth. And through your light, the whole earth will prosper under your guidance. But if you disobey my law and go against the God who saved you out of Egypt, your children will be cursed. By default, by disobeying me, that's right. Your children will fall under the curse and be led by those Gentiles and gods I told you not to follow. If you obey those gods, your children will go under the nations who serve those gods. And as a result, you'll need a sacrifice or an example on how to get back on code before I destroy the earth. Because when I destroy my people and they fall, it won't be too long before the whole earth is destroyed. In order for a new kingdom to reestablish out of the ashes. I just broke that down in a nutshell, folks. And what I just quantified is the true narrative of our existence within this Bible. Now, if I went into the Bible skeptical, not sure of what the Bible was, guess what? Those would be the answers I would have received. Total darkness, no understanding. See? But I went into the Bible honestly, seeking answers. Okay? Right? What type of world would have sick, mentally demented people in authoritative positions, educated, only to go into society to totally disrupt the psyche of our children? What society would have? That would be a satanic society. A satanic society against God. And guess what? We're not going to blame God for the wickedness of man. These are the examples God said in the Bible that will soon be judged. And see, here's the confusion for those who don't go into the Bible. Because you don't go into the Bible to make sense of what's going on, you blame God for this confusion. You blame God to why things aren't working out for you and your family. If God exists, why are we suffering so? See? You blame God instead of looking at it and say, you know what? We must be under a curse. How is it these other nations have found favor to rule over our people in earth? That and more will be broken down in this lesson today. Don't blame God when we have an opportunity through free will to do what's right morally according to God's law. So we're going to go and seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. Come on.
Yes, sir. No one of these shall fail.
Not one of the prophecies of God would fail. Read.
None shall want her mate.
And you cannot make the Bible with any other Gentile record. That's why it's nonsense. If any minister or pastor or preacher or imam would stand there holding the Bible and teaching out of the Quran at the same time. It's total confusion, and it's what? A contradiction. You have to look at what came first. The Bible, or the scrolls from whence the Bible came. See, it's confusion. You can't make the Bible with the Gentiles' records. I can't go and get the Egyptian Book of the Dead and some Egyptian record and try to resolve that metaphorically or what have you through reading the Bible now. Yeah, they try to say the Bible came from what did the Egyptians say? Some of the Egyptologists. They claim it came from some scrolls of Egypt.
Walls of Egypt or the negative confessions and all these other things that they claim the Bible stole from.
Yeah, talking about Ma'at. The laws of Ma'at. Well, if you're going to claim that the laws of Ma'at is right, as an argument against the Bible, show me where you're executing the laws of Ma'at in our neighborhoods to help our people. So that's a lie. You're only bringing up the laws of Ma'at of Egypt for an argument against the book. But if the laws of Ma'at were right for our people, right, why aren't you promoting the laws of Ma'at to change the conditions of our people? You only use it for the argument against the book that really expose who you are and the demons and the evil fallen ones you truly worship. But I digress. I don't have to say anything about the conscious community and others, because why? It's all coming into light as we speak right now. What's coming into light? At the end of the day, the only place that gives answers to what's going on is in the Bible. At the end of the day, seek ye out of the book of the Lord, the Bible, and read.
No one of these shall fail.
Not one of these shall fail.
None shall want her mate.
None shall want her mate.
For my mouth it have commanded, and his spirit it have gathered them.
And the Spirit of God is now gathering the children of Israel. This awakening isn't a movement. It's prophecy. I'm going to tell you exactly what we all are living in right now, currently. The end of Esau's world. The end of Esau's world led by Satan. And the beginning of the true righteous world that Christ said would do what? Rise from out of the grave. This is what happens when our people wake up to the knowledge and begin to teach our children that we weren't born to be slaves. Huh? But because of that, it disrupts the status quo, the political construct. It threatens the republic. Which leads us to our lesson today. When the Romans destroyed Jerusalem. Now, why am I going here today? Well, number one, I'm going here to show you the similarities to the political construct during the time of Christ and the disciples, which led to the fall of Jerusalem. And how eerily similar we are to that point right now, where the Gentiles under Satan have put certain political and scientific constructs in place to siege the children of Israel, like they did us in 70 AD. And unless you understand this Bible, guess what? Brothers and sisters, there's no way any of us can make sense of what's going on in the earth today. But this is a very intelligent, well thought out plot against Jerusalem today. But it's not as simple as it was in 70 AD. That was straight out physicality and army, but there was some things in place, psychological warfare and all that led to the fall of Jerusalem. And they were using rebel, unhinged groups during the time of the Roman Empire as an excuse to come against all that belonged to God in Jerusalem. Same as today. I'm going to be going into it, COINTELPRO, everything today. This is the lesson you would need to understand concerning geopolitically what's going on in the earth with the Gentile people against our people, the children of Israel. I did one impactful lesson like this years ago. 2011, I did a lesson that broke down Jerusalem. It won't be, I don't believe it will have some of the in-depth information we have today because we're further along in prophecy. But it was It quantified the earth and our condition and the war against us so precisely that YouTube had to take the video down. And not once did we say anything racist, hate, or nothing against no one. Just the history and the detailed information alone threatened the status quo. They blocked it in different parts of England where it couldn't be seen. And eventually, YouTube, when they went through their censorship, just took the video down, claiming that it had hate speech in it. That's how profound that lesson was. But you know what? We're going to hit you again. Hit the like button. Hit the like button now. I want all of our brothers and sisters to see this, and make sure you go to the page, hit the bell, and tell YouTube that you would like to receive all notifications going forward, and tell a friend, tell a family member about this lesson. About this lesson, folks. Please. And I say, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back next week for Patreon, for my Patreonies. Don't worry about it. I got a lot for you next week. Don't worry about it. But I needed some time to think on this. We have to hit you on the Sabbath with this lesson, folks, to give you a mental picture of what's really going on today. Right? Seek ye out the book of the Lord and read.
No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate.
Not one prophecy shall fail. Read.
For my mouth it have commanded, and his spirit it have gathered them.
And it's a spirit that's gathering the righteous together against this fight. In this fight against darkness, folks. In this fight against darkness. So we're going to break this down. When the Romans destroyed Jerusalem, if the Bible tells us, let's get it. Ecclesiastes 1, there's nothing new under the sun. Folks, I'm going to parallel the majority of things that we can see is happening geopolitically today. And we're going to compare it to what happened before the fall of Jerusalem. It's going to change your whole perspective on how you view immigration. How all of us will review or view protests as we see in America today in the Western world. It's going to change your view on everything. And then at the end of it, I'm going to give, through the Spirit of the Almighty, I thought about it, the insight on what to do in these instances when it comes to these groups, protests, and all of that. Okay? How to operate within government, knowing that the government was established to stomp out what? Those who would go against the status quo. One thing about the Republic or the New World Order was created so that Esau could absorb the whole world to do what? To insulate and keep power, to sustain power as long as he could. That's what the New World Order is. Okay? It's absorbing all nations and inseminating them into the status quo of the Republic to sustain Esau's time. So now, if you are a part of the awakening, one must have to understand how to navigate through that, because they have systems in place, sentinels in place in all areas to try to stomp out anything that goes against the Republic. And it started with Christ. So they started making accusations against Christ. They started claiming that Christ was against the Republic, that Christ was against the IRS. Oh yeah, it wasn't the IRS back then. But taxation is a big part of Esau's New World Order establishment. And Christ gave us information on how to navigate when it comes to that. So we're not going to be able to escape his tentacles or his sentinels. But if we walk right and navigate right in this time of prophecy, Christ will send the angels to hedge us through it. Let's read it, Elder Lawyer. Nothing new under the sun. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. Ecclesiastes 1, verse number 9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be.
The thing that has been is that which will be. Read.
And that which is done is that which shall be done.
Come on.
And there is no new thing under the sun.
There's no new thing under the sun. Which means the governments of the earth aren't using new tricks because the old tricks work. So the same way the Roman Empire came against Jerusalem to keep their power back then in 70 AD, it's the same way they'll do it all over the earth. See? You have to realize, folks, when you look at it from a biblical perspective, to why there's certain rules for our people opposed to everyone else. And I don't blame other races of people for this stuff. It's systemic. You have to realize they're seeking to do what? They're seeking to continue the Republic of Rome. And through that, they must stave off and oppress and keep Jacob from ever rising. See? So I understand this. It's systemic. So I'm not blaming no race of people, those who are benefactors or whatever of the system. Okay. But all in all, what I'm telling you is, it's all about keeping Jacob down. There's a reason why, if you travel into other countries of Europe and all these other places, they're not they're not suggesting that one must take a medical solution in order to enter the country. But if you go into the African country, they'll say, well, hey, yellow fever, malaria, hey, you got to get a solution to go into these other countries. Now, on the surface, it seems as if they're protecting people, right? But why is those laws put in place to travel to those countries opposed to European countries or even Asian countries? You can go to Egypt and not have to worry about that. But why, if you have to go to Africa, there's a medical solution that you must go and make sure you get the antidote to actually travel to the country. So these are systematic barriers in place to tell us that there's something different going on. There's a different rule for where Judah, Benjamin, and Levi resides opposed to everyone else on earth. And they're seeking to keep those people isolated for a specific purpose. Not just there, but all through the earth. The restriction of travel. But they'll let everyone else travel freely into America as immigrants and all that. And freely. But no one even asks. How is it that when you have to go to Africa, the first thing they say is, did you take this or did you take that? Think about it, folks. There's different rules for us. Okay, than other people. And travel comes into play too. And I'm going to go into that. Because what it does on the outside of Africa, it makes everyone on the outside believe that the people traveling out of the country is a threat too. It's a threat to spread something or to cause some disease to come amongst other people. So these are what? Systematic trenches put in place so that they can execute racism without saying so, without claiming it's racist. If they can blame it on a disease, and by default, if they can blame it on a disease, then now a people can be demonized. Racist. Let's break it down. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 49. That which was before will happen again, and there's nothing new under the sun. Now, brothers and sisters, let me tell you this right now. Jew and Gentile alike, whether you be an Israelite or not, open your minds to receive the word of God this Sabbath. And you'll be able to totally understand what's going on in the earth right now from a geopolitical perspective. But it first starts with the people, the children of Israel. And that's who we are. My forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Judah blood runs through my veins. Okay? Christ is and was the Lion of Judah. How did we fall to such depths? Well, Christ is going to break it down through the word. I'm going to show you. Christ is going to give us some insight. We're going to start back at Deuteronomy where God gave the law to Moses. Let's start, Elder Lawyer, at 49.
Yes, sir. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse number 49.
Come on.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Now, what I need you to do here, Elder Lawyer, I need you to go to the 15th verse first.
Yes,
The
sir.
15th, Deuteronomy 28 and 15.
Yes, sir. Deuteronomy 28 and 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and all his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
That all these what?
All these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
All these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Right here on your screen. It states right here, for those who don't understand why slavery happened, curses for disobedience. That's our people. Now, the Most High didn't give these rules to the other nations of people, to the Gentiles, to the Asians, to the Arabs, okay, to the East Indians, or even the Edomites or Idumeans at this time, who would be today the modern day Europeans. The Most High didn't give those people these conditions. Hence the reason why they play unfair. They can do what's wrong and still sustain power for a time. But not us. We do wrong, we are immediately punished. Immediately. So it says, but it shall come to pass, if you will not listen to God. That means be moral. Be civil to one another. Love one another. Stop trying to get over on one another. Respect boundaries. See? And this is what the Most High, the law is really, in a nutshell, respecting boundaries. There's a boundary between we stand with our God and we don't step out of bounds to serve other gods. See? Thou shalt not have no other God before thee. Okay, we have to stay in bounds. Remember the Sabbath. Stay in bounds. Our Sabbath is from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. We can't turn another day into a holy day. That's out of bounds. Thou shalt not commit adultery. That means what? If that woman belongs to another man, you're not supposed to even think about it. Stay in bounds. Thou shalt not steal. Don't come up with no elaborate scheme talking about I got some business and I need some investors, knowing that you're looking to scheme somebody. Thou shalt not steal. Stay in bounds. So everything the Most High was telling us, just stay in bounds with one another so that we can trust one another. Right? Don't covet that which is your neighbor's. Be satisfied with what the Most High gave you and stop trying to trick somebody into getting what belongs to them. You would think our people would say, you know what? These laws doesn't just benefit others. They benefit us personally. They benefit me personally. Right? So it's not like the Most High was putting some hard rules down on people. He was just saying, why don't we just treat each other civilly. Respect our boundaries. And you got the church telling people, hey, the law is impossible to follow. Huh? How's the law impossible to follow? Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. You mean to tell me something is forcing you to turn Sunday into God's worship? You mean to tell me something is forcing you to worship Zeus? Oh man, the law is impossible. Hearken unto the laws and observe to do what?
All his commandments.
All his commandments.
And his statutes, which I command thee this day.
Because you're going to follow someone's rules. Right? The Most High is not just going to allow you to walk through this earth unaccountable. So if you don't follow my rules, this is what God is saying, unaccountable. Oh, if you don't follow my rules, let's see if you like the rules the Gentiles put you under. But you're going to follow some rules. See? This is how we fell as a people. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day. Read.
That all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
You will be overtaken with curses. Folks, when you read Deuteronomy 28, it talks about roaches, pestilences, diseases, all of that in Deuteronomy 28. That he'll take the plagues that he saved us from out of Egypt and put it in our communities. And then now we're walking around, oh God, why are we suffering so? What's going on with us? How can a God put us in this condition? Blame God for not following him. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. You cannot make this up. At the end of it, instead of correcting ourselves and being accountable to the law we fell from, our people would begin to blame God for our conditions. You cannot make this up. You got something, lawyer?
No, sir.
You can't make this up. If there was a God, that he wouldn't have allowed the white man to do what he did to us. You can't make this up, folks. Instead of going into the book and to God contrite and say, you know what? I've sinned against the law of heaven. The law that was given to Moses. I repent. Lord, show us the way towards the righteousness that you gave our forefathers initially so that I can stand in your light, in your power. No accountability. We still, that's what our people say. What God would allow what's going on right now? Huh? That book ain't doing it. That's a white man's book. That's what they'll say. Well, is this the white man that's talking about right here going into cargo slave ships? Let's read it, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse number 49.
Come on.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
Now, this is a curse that only applies to the children of Israel. Now, usually when we go into this scripture, we talk about how the Romans came over, the conquistadors, and conquered our brothers and sisters over here in the New World America. We usually go into it and say this is him sending the eagle against the North American Indian. Or whom were the Mexicans and the Colombians and others. The Balikwa Taino Indians. Usually we say the eagle came over here. But don't forget, folks, the eagle came against Jerusalem while we were in Jerusalem. The eagle came against Christ first. And we're going to show you. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee, read.
From far.
From far.
From the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
As swift as the eagle flieth. The book of Obadiah gives us a sign, a symbol, that Edom or Esau will exalt himself as the eagle. Any place he stake his flag on any land, he'll use the eagle as the emblem. Edomites. The Roman Empire. That's right, folks. Had the staff of the eagle with blood red behind it. I'm going to send Esau against you if you go against me, Israel. Esau will come against you, your big brother, who has an axe to grind. He believes that he should be the chosen. So you know what? You can relegate your power to him if you would like. But as a people, you would long for the day when you and your forefathers was up under the hedge given to Moses. Either you follow me or Esau will rule over you. He'll build your prisons. He'll build your slave ships. Okay, he'll separate your families. He'll control you politically. As swift as the eagle, read.
As swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
A nation whose tongue you shall not understand. You know, they came Latin. Read.
50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old.
They're not going to care about the honor that should come with the age. They could care less about the old. A matter of fact, they'll come out with some stuff and say, you know what? The elderly should take it first. We don't need old people. We need re-educated children whom we could do what? Condition to serve Rome. See? Let's get rid of any minds or any people of wisdom who can oppose the republic and re-educate the children. They will have no regard for the person of old. Read.
Nor show favor to the young.
And they don't care about the young. The only time they care about the young is if they can control them. Oh yeah, when your child is born, yeah, give your child to us, and you're gonna make sure your child is real good before it leaves this hospital. Okay? We're gonna make sure it's real good. Did you give your child this? Did you give your child that? They don't care about children. If they cared about children, you wouldn't see this progressive political process in the inner cities seeking to do what? Pump out mentally ill children. That's the Roman way. It's about what? Yeah. Sustaining the republic. Sustaining they don't care if they make you brain dead. They're looking to inseminate you into the machines anyway. They don't care if you're brain dead. They don't care if you're dumb. They don't care if you have an IQ. IQ, lower than a temperature. A very low temperature, freezing. They don't care. Why? You got it, folks. They're looking to assimilate people into being mindless soldiers for Satan anyway. The more you know, the greater threat you are to the republic. So there's an attack on the minds of our people. And the Bible tells you they're not going to regard our age. They're not going to regard our young. These are our people they're attacking. Read.
51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed.
So he's going to take your land, take your food, until they be destroyed. Read.
Which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee.
Until he had destroyed thee. This was prophecy, folks, and I'm going to show you. They took all of our products. Without land, without a way to sustain yourself, that's right, we would become generational slaves to the republic. There's no other book that can break this down to how our people fell to such depths. Nowhere. Now, you can't say that this is talking about the people who's in charge now, because they're over the products. They're over the land. You have to go to them to buy land. They're over the real estate. You can't say they're the people if they're over the real estate selling property to you. How can they be the people of the curse and the people with all the products too? Pause. If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Okay? Hit the like button. Let's go.
52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down.
Now, I need y'all to take notice of this. Make sure you mark this verse here. He shall besiege thee in thy gates. The one who the Most High prophesied would come against us as quick as the eagle flieth. That's mean within Jerusalem, he would seize us. Read, until thy high and fenced walls, what?
Come down.
Come down.
Wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee.
So Jerusalem will be taken. All the gates throughout thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. Jerusalem belongs to us, folks. It always belonged to us. We were sieged by the Roman Empire. And this is the history that modern day scholars and universities refuses to teach the world. They refuse to tell our children how we fell into chattel slavery. It was a process of time. But it first started with what? Our forefathers losing Jerusalem. And Christ talked about this. And folks, I don't care what your foreparents or what the people around you believe, you need to have them see this video. They'll understand why God was and is at war with us as a people. And I'm speaking about us in particular. I'm not talking about no other race of people. Why is God at war with us? We refuse to come back. We refuse to follow the path he laid for us through sin in Christ. See? Deuteronomy 28:15 on down is the war that the heavens have against us. Because what? When he freed us from Egypt, he gave us what? Conditions that would hold us accountable to that law that makes us a special people. He gave us conditions. You just can't get the whole land and get a land flowing with milk and honey, cattle, gold, riches, and a defense from heaven to stave off your enemies. No one can get all this without conditions. Right? So he says, no, I'm going to give you everything, but you're going to represent me on earth righteously. You can't do it like the Gentiles does things. Oh, the lawyer, read the 53rd verse, if you may.
Yes, sir, 53.
Yeah.
And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body.
Thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body. It was prophesied, folks, that if we don't do this right, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to come a time where the Gentiles will seize you and you'll be eating your own children. I'm going to show you historically this happened. And it doesn't surprise me, folks, allegedly, that what's going on with this child sacrifice that they've made law in America. Y'all know the Roe versus Wade and all this other stuff. That a lot of these products, allegedly, that come from fetuses and all that are in products that people consume. Allegedly. So now you don't even understand how they got everyone participating in the ritual of eating their own seed, eating their own children. See, that's on a technological advanced system to worship Moloch as we have today. But folks, back then in 70 AD, because they separated us from food and water and nourishment, there were people eating their own children. After the child would die through starvation, and I'm going to show you this, you had people eating their own children. And why do you think they came up with hamburgers? You don't know what part of the animal is that, or whether or not it's that animal at all, allegedly. Mm-hmm. A matter of fact, I'm going to leave that alone, okay? I'm going to leave that alone. Finish reading, Elder Lloyd.
53. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body,
your own children,
the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee, in the siege and in the straitness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee.
Shall distress thee. And that's also sacrificing your own people to survive. On another level, when you look at it, that you're willing to kill your own people and explain it all fast. Well, I got to take care of my family, even though you're killing the next generation. All that falls into eating your own people. Sounds eerily similar to the communities that the Most High saved us through. And we can explain it all fast. I got to feed my daughter. I got to feed my child. Even if it means destroying the rest of the children within our community. Read on.
54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother and toward the wife of his bosom.
Look at that. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother. He would give his brother all the smoke. But when he faced the same issues with other races of people, it's all good. But he got nothing but smoke for his own brother. But it's polite and cordial to all other people. And that's not just talking about it from a male perspective. That's from a female perspective too. How sisters will have all the smoke for their own people, but then when they're around other people who are doing the same things, guess what? They're cordial and respectful. That means they devalue and disrespect their own selves. They have no respect for the man in the mirror, the person they see. And the proof is how they treat their own people. That's how low they feel. Our people begin to feel against themselves. How you treat your people is a reflection of what you feel inside concerning the man in the mirror. It says, so that the man that is tender among you, he shall be very delicate, and his eyes shall be evil. What? Read it again.
It says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat.
Whom he shall eat. No care for your own people. It's written up in scripture. Pass me the other way. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Verse
55. So that he will not give to any of them the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness, wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates.
And when it says, and thy enemies shall distress you in all thy gates. So what is this showing? The nations will press you on every side to a point where what? There's not much left to sustain amongst your own people. And by default, systematically, by default, you began to turn on your own people for the sake of self-preservation. Tell me that's not where we are right now. That they're political. Now, folks, it was barbaric the way it happened in 70 AD. But they systematically did it in a different way without us noticing that it's the same curse. In 70 AD, it was more barbaric. It was just straight out. You can see how inhumane it was when this prophecy happened in 70 AD. But they put a systematic thing in place where it would create a culture amongst our people, dog eat dog. And then stick a camera in it and say, man, look at these animals. They wanted this optic of our people acting out in survival mode so that they can promote it to the world as what? These animals must be tamed. And now we seek the moral high ground, that's right, to destroy the problem. When they've cultivated the environment, this is where your Democrats come in at. They cultivate the groundwork so that others can have the moral high ground to see us as a problem that need what? Fixing. I'm breaking it all down for you. Read, we're going to go all the way to the 56th verse.
Yes, sir, 56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom.
And it says her what?
Her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter.
Look at that. The tender and delicate woman amongst you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her feet upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. For her eye shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom. So they're going to turn the woman. And it's speaking only Israelites women. This is the curse on us. That there will be an inherent hate towards her own husband. She don't even know why it exists. I just can't stand him. She don't even understand she's living a curse. So what she does, and toward her son and towards her daughter, so that vitriol is taught, that hatred she have for her husband or man is taught. And eventually, that's right, she actually teaches systemic mental illness into her children. See? That's a curse. That's a curse. Systemic mental illness. Because she feels a certain type of way about him, she's going to mess up the children. You want to know how a generational curse continues? How do we overcome this? Now, eventually, the curse of all curses. Slave ships. Eventually, the curse of all curses. Now, folks, why do you think we're living in a system where they will readily, with no problem at all, give all rights of children to women? Think about that. Not that women are bad. The children will grow without balance. The Bible says, give honor to the woman as the weaker vessel. Men can deal with scenarios without showing forth their emotions on the outside. So it doesn't affect the children long term. Well, that's how men used to be anyway, before the rise of estrogen and everything. So why do you think they want to give all the rights to the women? Think about it. There's no balance. So the children grow up mentally ill with no balance. There was a study that was shown. There was a study. I'm going to get to Deuteronomy 28 and 68 in a minute. But there was a study that was shown. And it was, I think it was like a 30-second video I seen where it says, this is why fathers are so important. And you had this child just crying and no, the mother was trying to put the baby in bed. And the little boy was giving the mother Hades. The father just walked in the room and looked. And the baby just laid down and put the covers on it. He didn't say anything. He walked in the room. That means if a man wasn't in that house, that child would have been like that until he got what he wanted all night. Because this is what mothers allow in her nurturing. Automatically, the children know that there's a way that they can get over because she seeks to nurture and to some degree pander to a child. Why do you think they want children raised strictly by their mothers? Where's that at? That's yours?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think so? Because they know this is how you create systemic mental ill little people that can be easily controlled by the system and re-educated by the system. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 68.
Yes, sir. Deuteronomy 28, verse number 68.
The curse of all curses.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Slavery for the second time. There's no history of Israelites ever going back into slavery through Egypt. In Egypt. This is talking about us going into captivity. By the same people who came as quick as the eagle flieth, the Roman Empire, Esau. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again by the means of ships.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
This would be our last captivity. Read.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen.
Sold to Mr. Rosenberg down in Virginia. Sold to Mr. Jefferson in Philadelphia. And that's another thing, how they try to sensationalize and give you some feel-good stories. Feel-good stories of slavery. Right? Feel-good stories of slavery. Oh, Thomas Jefferson married a black woman. And I forgot, what was the woman's name that they claimed Jefferson married? The black woman. Thomas Jefferson.
Weezy?
No, I get her right here.
Oh,
Sally Hemings. No, Sally Hemings. They try to put this thing all in history. Oh yeah, you know Thomas Jefferson. He loved Sally Hemings. Man, I mean that's a black woman that was. See, you have to watch how they frame history. And they are they're seeking to rewrite history so that they can make it what they want again, folks. If we would allow it with this racial crap they're talking about now, to erase what? Erase the truth concerning the awakening and our people being the children of Israel. That's what it's really about. But Sally Hemings, man, Thomas Jefferson loved her. Well, when you go into the history. What's that? Is that my phone? Where? Okay. When you go into the history of Sally Hemings, folks, let me give y'all some insight. Let me give some insight of Sally Hemings. What they didn't tell you is that Thomas Jefferson shared Sally Hemings with his brother. Philadelphia. See, I'm from Philadelphia. I know the true stories. Not to sensationalize, oh, we honored the queen and all that, and yeah, she didn't deal with what the others dealt with. That's a story they pushing in colleges so that they can actually promote what? This queen goddess garbage. Sally Hemings was locked away in a plantation as a teenager with hidden rooms in Thomas Jefferson's house. There's not a legend. You can do the research. And guess what? She was being shared with Thomas Jefferson's brother, having babies by these two white men. Man, this is probably where they get the story Scandal from. The series Scandal. Olivia Pope being shared between two guys in power. And there you shall be what?
And there you shall be sold unto your enemies.
Unto your enemies. Read.
For bondmen and bondwomen.
Slave man and slave woman.
And no man shall buy you.
And no man shall buy you, which means old Quaker English. You can't be sold and not purchased. Buy means redeemed. Redeemed out of the conditions of these curses. No man will get you out of this condition. But the redemption, the only man or spirit from the beginning who is qualified to purchase us, to take away our sin, is Christ. So when it says no man shall buy us, no man can buy us out of this condition or redeem us out of this condition. It comes with a worthy sacrifice. And that sacrifice is Christ. And unless you understand Christ, you don't understand geopolitically what's going on. Right? Because Christ in of himself, everything he experienced leading up to the fall of Jerusalem, give us an insight to what we'll experience, what we are experiencing now. Elder Lawyer, let's go now to Luke 19.
Quick reset.
Yes, sir.
On redeem.
Yes.
Galatians 4:4-5. But when the fullness of time was come, God sent forth his son, made of a woman.
Made of a woman.
Made under the law.
Made under the law.
To redeem them that were under the law.
To redeem those people who were under the law.
That we might receive the adoption of sons.
So that through his blood, we can be adopted back into the fold and accepted as his children again. Because the Most High cast us away for disobedience. So how do we undo the curse that was put on our foreparents? Deuteronomy 28. We must accept the path that Christ laid for us in order to receive redemption. He purchased us with his own blood for the sins of our forefathers who broke the commandments given to Moses. So there's no way you can understand things geopolitically if you don't understand Christ within prophecy. And he told us everything our forefathers would be experiencing. Back then, Christ fulfilled what was written of him, our people, and him in the Old Testament. And then he told us what would happen to us going forward, even till this day. And I don't understand how Christians in the Christian church read the Bible and can't relate slavery and all that to Christ. You know what I mean? It baffles me. It baffles me. Okay? It baffles me. Elder Lawyer, let's go to Luke 19. Let's hit it.
Luke 19:41.
Need a Bible, son?
Yes, sir.
All right. Luke 19.
Thank
Yes, sir.
You're welcome.
St. Luke 19:41.
Luke 19. Let's get it because I want them to see it here. Luke 19 and 41.
Yes, sir. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it.
It says, when Christ came near. This is now moving forward to Christ now. After our people have sinned against the Most High. We've fallen through the Babylonian Assyrian captivity. Right? The 10 tribes were taken out in 721. And now they reside here over in America in different parts of the earth now, scattered, the northern kingdom. This is about 800 years from the time the Most High would split, 721 BC, from the time that the Most High would split the kingdom after Solomon. Now Christ comes on the scene to redeem us. So the first thing he did was, he looked on the city of Jerusalem and wept. He cried for our people at Jerusalem. He cried for us. Saying what?
Saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belonged unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes.
There's hid from thine eyes, read.
For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee.
He says, there's going to come a day where your enemies will cast a trench about thee. So geopolitically, what's going to go on is, you're going to have an invasion amongst your people. And you're going to think they're for you. You're going to think the political answer to why they're amongst you has no impact on you. You're going to believe that. But it's systematically putting our people in a trap, surrounding us with enemies. Can someone say immigration right now? So they're not doing it the same way, but politically it's the same outcome. Right? Think about it. If your resources are already scarce, how can you bring other people amongst the scarcity without it leading to more criminality, without it leading to more deaths? So when he says set a trench, it's actually trapping you into an area to be what? Utterly eradicated. They're doing it politically today, folks. I'm breaking it down for you. It's setting a trench amongst us. Sometimes they use psychological trenches. Sometimes they can use medical trenches. Oh no, you can't leave out of Africa because, you might have one of those diseases. Oh no, you can't go into Africa unless you get an antidote for one of the diseases. That's an invisible trench that's keeping the people still. Now they have a political reason to keep you trapped until they come up with the final solution. See? Oh no, you can't. Oh no. Even during the time of 2020, you had governors of Texas who, this is not alleged, you can look it up. Governors of Texas were forbidding people to come in from Louisiana into Texas, claiming we had a high infection number that gives us the high ground to restrict people from fleeing Louisiana. No, we can't allow you because you may bring the disease. See, this is how trenches are set amongst people without them telling you it's so. And unless you understand the political scenarios that led to our fall, you'll never understand this. So when Christ came and seen Jerusalem, I know the disciples were looking at him like, what you sitting there crying for? The people, the families are there. People are having a good time. They're still marrying. They're still celebrating. They're still going to Sabbath. And he's looking at Jerusalem because he's looking at it and saying, you don't know what's going on here. I see the future for Jerusalem. Bloodshed is coming here. You can go to all the parties, you can go celebrate, you can do all this, but Christ seen the future. He's seen Deuteronomy 28 for the same land he was standing on and began to cry and mourn for. So just because you can still go to a wedding reception, you can still go to a baby shower, you can still do this, it makes people believe that this is all it'll be. But when Christ looked over our neighborhoods, when he looked over the cities, there's mourning. Because systemically, Esau is doing the same thing. He's setting a trench right up under us. Every time we see strangers from other places not realizing their agendas, their initiatives that they were sent for. Every time. We don't even see what happens when these children have children and become citizens. We don't even see what about their beliefs that's against our God. What does it mean for the future of those who believe in God? Verse
43. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side.
And keep thee in on every side. They already got a way of doing it now. The test run, allegedly, the reset began right after Biden was voted in. Let's see how long we can keep them in their houses. Let's see if we can use the news politically drive this thing home and make the whole earth fearful. To a degree, they'll stay put. See? 44. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
Because they knew not the time of the visitation. Now, what's the visitation? Folks, the desolation of abomination spoken of in Daniel when they would come against our people. Now, there were things put in place. Initially, folks, there were things put in place. Scenarios, political scenarios that would demonize the children of Israel within Jerusalem. See, you have to realize Caesar, ruling a republic, had to have the moral high ground to come against such a people. So they needed political excuses to engage us. See, right? You just can't come against a people without excuse. So they had to come up with scenarios in which they would be justified destroying our people. Now, if you don't know this and how to relate it today, you'll fall victim as our people did who didn't listen. You have to navigate geopolitically to understand, okay, what happened? What are the traps they can use to destroy us? Well, I'm going to show you some. Elder Lawyer, let's now go to Luke 20 and 24.
St. Luke 20, verse number 24.
Let's read it.
Show me a penny whose image...
Go before that.
Yes, sir.
Because this is what we have, right? Now, there was 3 different factions that I want to highlight that we need to understand operates within this world today to keep the people under control. And through that control, the republic continues. Now, since we're going into light against darkness for the next 3 months, right? And we're going to do archaeology and history for the next academy, I thought I would give you some understanding, starting with 3 fundamental scenarios that they must have over society as a form of control over billions of people. And I'm speaking millions within the framework of America right now, right? Being that our people were brought here in slavery. Here are the 3 things that they used back then. that you can search for. You have to have sorcerers and witches. Right? Sorcerers over religious, sorcerers over the people. To push what? The religion of the dark side against those who believe in Christ. They must have sorcerers in position, like your Freemasons. Right? And they also, this is what Rome needs. Rome need rebels. They need protesters. Why? Because the rebels, these are they which threatens the republic and rally the people under one mind behind government against the group. Right? So they need sorcerers and they need protesters. They need rebels. You're going to find all of these political components led to what? The Roman Empire justifying themselves coming against us in 70 AD. So it wasn't just the Most High said you would go into slavery. Well, there was something going on geopolitically that would lead to the Republic being justified coming against us. Immorality, sorcery, and what? A threat of a rebellion. Right? And then above all, a willing, listen, last but not least, I'm going to cover all three, a willing, blind population. A willingly blind population. Now, when it says a willingly blind population, here's the last of the three. You need sorcerers who's willing to work with the Republic against the people, like your T.D. Jakes, like your Oprah Winfrey's as an example, who's willing to work against us to keep us in the status quo. Then you have to have what? A threat of a rebellion or an uprising against government, right? And the last but not least, you need blind citizens who feel that their existence or survival is tied to the survival of the Republic. Right? So you have willingly blind who feel that if the country go down, if the Republic goes down, they go down with it. You need that. Willingly blind people whose soul's existence comes with the dependence on the country. Now you're going to find these three things existed during Christ's time. This is why I'm going into when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem. You have to understand the mindset of the people who would allow it and why it was allowed. Well, guess what? Rome had all of the political things lined up that would allow them to come against us. We were divided as a people. We had sorcerers and all that in place, seeking to aggrandize themselves off of the people instead of coming together. Then you had the willing sheeple who believed that their existence aligned with the existence of the Republic. And then you had rebels. Those that the government can claim, if we let these jihadis, they call them jihadis now, but if we allow these jihadis to exist, eventually they're going to destroy the country. So, or here's another word they use today. Terrorist. They have to promote a faction that threatens the Republic, and the people must deem them a threat to their existence. Terrorism. All of these political scenarios were in place which justified, according to Rome, the fall of Jerusalem. So we can see it from one side, being the people who was prophesied to fall, but we don't understand the political makeup that was going on, that they would have to accuse us first. Accuse us to come against us. Here's an example. Let's go into Caesar. Let's go.
Yes, sir. St. Luke chapter 20, verse number 19. And the chief priests and the scribes the same hour sought to lay hands on him, and they feared the people, for they perceived that he had spoken this parable against them.
Come on. So you had our own people aligned to come against Christ. Why? Because Christ threatened their position that was given them through government. The Romans like, listen, we're betting on who can influence the people. Now, if you got this Christ running around who has no political or financial pull, but yet he has more influence than you people we're paying, we might as well find him and pay him. This is how the Romans were thinking. See, the Romans don't care what you believe as long as what? As long as you're not a problem to the Republic. As long as you're willing to keep the status quo going. They don't care less what you believe. Because their true religion and belief is one world order under Satan. Their belief is to exist. Their whole republic is a religion in of itself. So they can care less what you believe. Okay? So they're going to put their money on who will sustain the republic. So you had our people in position, Sanhedrin, like your politicians today, and pastors today, who had a political interest. Why? Because why? The political interest was they were being paid by the government to control their people. Right? So now, they say, well, listen, I know how we can trap Christ up. We can trap him up by telling Caesar and others that he doesn't pay his taxes. We pay our taxes. See? Let me show you. So Christ was teaching us, listen, follow. When they put rules in place, follow it. Follow those rules. Okay. Now, if they put in rules that's immoral against God, like a man marrying a man, a woman marrying a woman, no, we don't follow those laws, which conflicts with God laws. But when there's a law put in place, follow it because they're going to use it against you. Especially if everyone else, all the other citizens are forced to do it. How is it that we have to pay taxes and these guys are running around and don't have to pay taxes? So that's how they align people, right, with the republic against others. See? So then they came to Christ and tried to trip him up. Let's read it.
Verse 20.
Come on.
And they watched him and sent forth spies, which should feign themselves just men, and that they might take hold of his words, that so they might deliver him unto the power and authority of the governor.
See that? So first they send in spies. That's what we would call today amongst our people and others, COINTELPRO. They'll send in spies to see if there's something that these people are doing illegal or could be perceived as wrong, so that they can use it politically to align themselves against Jerusalem. See? See? They did it back then. There's nothing new under the sun. And that's why when you see a task force, satanic task force that are put together, like apologetics, who came out of nowhere, folks. They didn't come out of nowhere. These are task forces. They don't care about Christ and our people. Their singular mission is to do what? Create a dossier demonizing the awakening of Jerusalem to justify, that's right, coming against our people in these cities. Same thing. COINTELPRO. They send spies first and say, yeah, let me tell you about these groups and what they're really about. I did the research on them and nothing good is about them. See? So what they're doing, they are compiling a dossier to be used like what happened in right before 70 AD when Jerusalem fell. Read it.
Yes, sir. Verse number 21.
21, let's get it.
And they asked him, saying, Master, we know that thou sayest
Hold
and
on,
teachest.
where are you?
Verse 21.
What chapter?
Luke 19 or Luke 20 and 21.
Luke 20. Luke 20 and 21. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. And they asked him, saying, Master, we know that thou sayest and teachest rightly, neither acceptest thou the person of any, but teachest the way of God truly.
We know you teach the word of God. So they couldn't trip him up with that. Right? They couldn't trip. He's teaching the word as it was written, right? Read.
22. Is it lawful for us to give tribute unto Caesar or no?
Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or no? Christ, we the Israelites, we're God's people. Are we to be taxed? Huh? Are we to be taxed like the Romans taxed their citizens? Right? Read.
23. But he perceived their craftiness.
Hold up, read that again.
But he perceived their craftiness.
He perceived them trying to trip him up so that he could report back to Caesar that Christ is compelling others not to pay taxes like Roman citizens. IRS. They can't get you one way, they get you that way. See? Read.
But he perceived their craftiness and said unto them, Why tempt ye me?
Why tempt ye me? Why are you trying to get me jammed up? Why are you trying to get me to say something that's going to lead to what? The empire falling on me. You trying to get me to slip because he know there's no taxation of Gentiles on Israelites anywhere in God's law. The only thing that we have within our law, as far as tax, was to give 10% to the Levites to keep our society going. So this is why here's the trick. Is it lawful to pay your taxes? And you know in Moses' law, there's no law where we have to pay the Gentiles. So this is how Christ handled it. Let's read.
24. Show me a penny.
Show me a penny.
Whose image and superscription hath it?
It's Esau's face on the money. He says, whose face is on the money? Esau's face is on the money. Read.
They answered and said, Caesar's.
It's Caesar's money. Right? He put his face on the money for a reason. To show his authority and power over the nations he's conquered. My face isn't on this money. Caesar's face is on this money. Read.
25. And he said unto them, Render unto Caesar the things which be Caesar's.
If Caesar send a bill, pay it. Because they're going to trap you up. And it's going to align the citizens against you. Why? Because the citizens are going to try to claim, well, why do we have to pay taxes and you, under your religion, don't? When our money is being utilized to help the country run. This is how they align the people of the republic against other people. Why do you think out of nowhere, folks, they began to look to audit and ask Trump about whether or not he paid taxes? because especially our people, think about it, especially our people, we broke as a joke and we work hours and look at our check and trying to figure out who's FICA. Like that's a family member who takes so much. So here it is. We poor looking at our checks and saying, well, hold up. How is this rich man don't have to pay taxes? And then automatically divide the people against an individual. See? So Christ showed us how to navigate. If the IRS sent a bill and it's justified, pay it. See? That's one thing. Now, I'm going to show you how they were able to go against our people. Folks, you had some rebels. There were some rebels in Jerusalem who felt that they didn't want to pay taxes. Right? A rebellion. Exactly what they needed. Because we was in Jerusalem, like, we ain't going to pay the Levites and pay them too. So now you're going up on taxes. But they used that to align the Roman citizens to justify coming against us. So it just wasn't during the time of Nero when they burnt those shops in 7 parts of Rome, blaming it on our people. That was just the last shoe to drop, folks. They were slowly but surely cultivating negative sentiments against our people in Jerusalem, which gave them the justification to finally destroy us. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Let's go to Acts 5 real quick. Acts 5. Acts 5, and let's start here at 34. Let me get it here.
Yes, sir.
Acts 5 and 34.
Yes, sir. Acts chapter 5, verse number 34. Then there stood up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space.
Come on.
And said unto them, Ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men.
It says, ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men. Be careful not to touch them. Read.
36. For before these days rose up Theudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who was slain, and all as many as obeyed him were scattered and brought to naught.
Now let's break this down. Be careful when you got Israelites or a person boasting himself beyond measure, as he's some great revelation that was sent for a purpose, when Christ is that great revelation. That's number one. When people start to exalt a man beyond measure in an organization and try to claim that there's some spiritual significance to this individual, where they're highlighting that individual. And it says, and before these days rose up Theudas. We're going to show you who Theudas was. Boasted himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves and was slain. And all as many obeyed him were scattered and brought to naught. Now check this out. Read.
Verse number 37. After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing.
Now there's another guy now. This man, Judas of Galilee, in the days of the taxing. Now there's another name given him according to the Gentile history, but he rallied the Israelites together, men who knew they were Israel, following the law, and says, we're not paying taxes here. And it rallied the people who were already suffering. It's enough we're being taxed, we're getting ruled out, and now they're going to come with another tax. This guy was able to rally all of the people and say, what? We're not following the law. Matter of fact, we're coming against Rome. These were the men that Rome began to discuss in the Senate and said, listen, we have a problem here. There's a threat of Israelites who are out publicly saying that they're going to overthrow the throne of Caesar. That's why I say, brothers and sisters, be careful. People outside talking about what they're going to do with no king present talking about what they're going to do after Christ come. And it's nothing talking about they're going to enslave people and they're going to do this and that and other to people. Guess what? This is why they got everything documented. Because there's nothing for the government to think, what if these begin to think like Judas and others during the time of Caesar? What if they aren't waiting for their king? What if the things they're thinking in their mind, what if they think to execute this before Christ returns? You understand where this is at? See, that's why Christ said, oh no, you're not going to trip me up and tempt me to say something they can use politically against me. Because the government is seeking reasons to come against Jerusalem to stop the awakening. So they want people to talk about what they're going to do to other people. Because they know that what you're manifesting in your mind, if you have the opportunity, yes, right, you would bring it forth. The sin is conceived in one's mind first until the opportunity presents itself. The epistles teaches us that. It's not about what the Bible says to them and when Christ returns, it's how you're thinking. See? You're thinking that if Christ come back, these are the things you're going to do against another race of people, and you're saying it publicly. And you know darn well, if someone came into your neighborhood or the next door neighbor threaten you and say what they're going to do to you tomorrow, you would have to deal with that threat today. Huh? What? After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of taxing. Go on there, the lawyer.
And drew away much people after him.
And much people were drawn away after him because everything they were saying about the Roman Empire was true. The sexual perversions, the evil they're pressing and taxing Jerusalem. When are we going to stand up against the wickedness? Everything they're saying was true. But what they weren't telling those people is what? It was prophesied it's time to follow that Christ. It's time to follow the ways of that Christ who came to show us how to navigate through this. No, they sought to take the power and the vengeance in their own hearts and in their own hands. See? And drew many people. That's right. That's right. The white man, Esau, Caesar, yeah. Wait till Christ come back. And guess what Esau is saying? Esau's looking at you and saying, you think we're going to wait till Christ come back to deal with you? You already told us what's in your heart, what you planned against us. You think we're going to allow Christ to come back before we deal with you? See, this is why Christ says, you have to be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. It's not what goeth into a man that defileth his man. It's what comes out of his mouth. You're telling the man who rules everything, who God gave power to rule for a while, what you intend to do to his children. If you had the opportunity. What do you think he's going to do? It's not about being coward. It's about being wise, like Christ stated. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him.
Come on.
He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed.
Were dispersed. Let me show you what happened to him. Let's go to Acts 13. I'm going to show you what happened to him, brothers and sisters, in Acts, the 13th chapter. Let's start at the first verse. That ain't it. Hold on. Luke 13. Hold on. Luke 13. Hey, folks, when you do the precepts, this is what happened to these guys who stood up and said, We ain't going to pay taxes. As a matter of fact, they're claiming they're going to come against government and trying to rally other people, simple people, to follow their nonsense. Not realizing that the Most High prophesied that he would set up this empire. It was written of it was written of in the book of Daniel. Christ is king. He knew that one day he would have to die and come back to bring forth our kingdom. And he was navigating carefully in that kingdom, saying, you're not going to trip me up. Mm-hmm. You're not going to tempt me to say something to give me an untimely death when I haven't fulfilled this side of my prophecy. So that means these people are boasting themselves beyond our king, mm-hmm. and feel that they can say things that he wouldn't say to get other people destroyed. Christ knew that it was our Father who set up the Roman Empire. And now you had our people, that's right, dealing with sorcery, mutinies, and all of that, operating out of the spirit, which gave the government justification to come against them. I'm going to show you what happened to them.
St. Luke 13, verse 1.
Read.
There were present at that season some that had told him of the Galileans.
Of the Galileans, read.
Whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices.
Listen. Whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. Now, when you do the research and do this, there was many rebellions that came up. And what would the Edomites do? What would the Edomites do, folks? As a sign of their power, once they have stomped out a rebellion, they would take the blood of those they killed and the leaders that they killed and mingle it with the sacrifices and serve it to their gods. Serve the blood of the Galileans and others to their gods as a message that if you stand up beyond measure, we will sacrifice you before the people, and the people will cheer. Now, sometimes they did it in other ways. The other ways they would do it is, bring on the games. Gladiators, go. And it was blood mingled, sacrifice, and games while the mob cheered and our people died killing one another. Now let me give you some research here. I said I'm going to go into a little history here. Let me read this. Thuidus that we read of in the book, The Revolt. Thuidus, right? It says right here. Let me blow it up so you can all see it. That Thuidus, possibly meant as flowing water, although with the Hellenist style ending. At some point between 44 and 46 AD, Thuidus led his followers into a short-lived revolt. And what happened? It came to pass, while Crispus, Thaddeus, and Procurator of Judea, that a certain charlatan whose name was Thuidus persuaded a great part of the people to take their effects with them and follow him to the river Jordan. For he told them he was a prophet, and that he would be his own command, divide the river, and afford them any passage over it. Show you how simple some of our people are, would follow some nonsense like this. Right? Many were deluded by his words. However, Thaddeus died. Thaddeus did not permit them to make any advantage of this wild attempt, but sent a troop of horsemen out against them. And falling upon them unexpectedly, they slew many of them and took many of them alive. They also took Theudas alive, cut off his head, and carried it to Jerusalem as an example of what not to do. Raising a rebellion against the empire. Bad idea. Out on the empire, telling the people in the empire what you're going to do to their children. Bad idea. That's false theology, and that's rebellion. And it's nothing like this that we can witness amongst the disciples. None of this. Then you have, here it is in Flavius Josephus. Now it came to pass while Theudas was procurator of Judea that a certain magician whose name was Theudas, sorcery we tell you, persuaded a great part of the people to take their effects with them and follow him to the river Jordan, for he told them he was a prophet. And they jacked him. Same thing. This Theudas who arose under Thaddeus the procurator about 45 to 46 cannot be that Theudas who arose in the days of taxing. Here's another one. Who arose in the days of taxing under Cyrenius. And guess what? And he was destroyed too. So listen, not only are we showing you the Bible is real, we're showing you history that substantiate these events to prove the Bible is true, and you can use it politically to understand how to navigate. While Jerusalem is under siege. See? You let me tell you, you don't understand politics and how it's made to keep the status quo if you don't understand Christ and the Bible and how our people navigated, who understood the time we were living in, and the others who are ignorant to it. Right? Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's get Judea real quick. Let's get Judea in the book of Luke, the 20th chapter, and start at the 19th verse. Let's get it.
St. Luke 21 and 19.
Luke 21 and 19. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. And your patience possess ye your souls.
In your patience, with your patience, brothers and sisters, read.
Possess ye your souls.
Possess ye your souls. We must wait on deliverance. We can't run and operate before the Spirit. With patience, possess ye your souls. Read.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies.
Read it again.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies.
Here's the prophecy that was prophesied. I shall send a nation, a fierce nation against you with a fierce countenance, as quick as the eagle flieth. When ye shall see, verse again.
20.
Come on.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
Flee into the mountains, read.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
All things that are written must be fulfilled. This is why Christ cried over Jerusalem. He knew eventually there would be circumstances politically that would lead to what? The republic being justified to come against us. He knew it. Our people were divided. And now here they come. He says, but if you're following the disciples, you'll know what to do. Flee into the wilderness. Now, where would we flee? Well, Acts the 2nd chapter lets us know that there was men that came out of each country where the churches were already established to preserve our people once they come after Jerusalem. We ran into Africa where churches were established and began our own civilizations there. Taking heed to Christ's prophecies, we fled into the wilderness. I want to show y'all something, folks. What are we looking at here? Well, from Babylon and Timbuktu, from Rudolf R. Windsor. Now, even though not all this what's in the book is correct, because Rudolf R. Windsor came up under a Jewish synagogue. So he believed some things and he didn't have the understanding of. He would say that the Europeans are Japheth. No, wrong. Off. So there's a lot of things in here that's incorrect concerning theology. But the history of our people running into Africa is exact. Look at this. In the year 65 BC, right here, I hope y'all see it, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem in 70 AD. General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jew state. That's our people. With great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. And during the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jew slaves. Where you Christian pastors are? Where you at? This is how we got into Africa. You can't say Africa is a land of Ham when we can, if anyone do any research, can understand that all 4 sons of Ham resided in North Africa. Not within the wilderness of Africa, where our people set up civilizations like Ghana, like South Africa, well before apartheid, Timbuktu. The whole Africa outside of North Africa became what? You got it. A refuge for those who took heed to Christ's prophecies, and we built civilizations in Africa until they found us, broke us down, and in an agreement with Africa, sold us to the Americas or throughout the earth when it comes to the transatlantic slave trade. Huh? What else you want? Okay, I got something else for you. I have something else. Black Jew slaves. I said I'm going to go into a little history, especially in the next academy. What do we have here? Now, this is not from any publication, brothers and sisters. This is from the stock exchange. This is from the stock exchange. How they have built their whole commerce, their whole exchange off of the slaves of Hebrews. The stock exchange, folks, let me show you. They got the right one here. Huh? The stock exchange. Now, what does this have to do with the stock exchange? Oh, the history of the stock exchange. This is when it started. What happened to the stuff from the temple in Jerusalem by the Romans? We just give you a microcosm of some of the history we'll be going into in the academy. In the year 66 CE, the Jews in Roman Palestine rose up in revolt against the Roman occupation. You see how the Gentiles view the fall of Jerusalem? They don't view it as our people being taken out unjustly. They view it as the republic had to defend itself against the revolt of those Hebrews. Right? Because there was some simpletons running around thinking that they could oppose an empire God set up. So they used that as justification to come against us. The Romans sacked Jerusalem, leveled the city, killed everyone inside, razed the temple to the ground, and carted off the holy relics of spoils of war. Folks, look at this. What is this? This is at the corner of a Colosseum in Rome till this day, where the Edomites are celebrating pillaging the temple. The Roman Catholics celebrate till this day the fall of our people in celebration of our people falling, running into Africa. Huh? What does it say here? There it is. Celebrated. This is how Esau got so rich. It's the beginning of the stock exchange. It started with them destroying our temple. Wall Street started here, folks. They took the temple and eventually they would use the people of the temple to build their Wall Street in the United States. In the most famous of the panels, Roman soldiers carried the Jerusalem temple spoils on parade, including our menorah, the showbread table, and the trumpets, which were then deposited into Rome's temple of peace. Huh? And folks, this is the tip of the iceberg. Wait, get in this academy. We're going to show y'all history on everything we break down. For those who claim that the Bible has no historical validity. Huh? Look at this here. Rome stole our gold. And guess what, folks? This is coming directly from the stock exchange. I mean, it's the stock exchange, which goes into the stock exchange when you do the research on the stock exchange. The research. The stock exchange goes into the history that leads to the stock exchange. Okay? To show you the historical foundation, the stock exchange, how they say, okay, this is how it transferred into what? Eventually that will become what? The finances over society. How the Romans stacked up and got what they needed to build their initial empire off of the blood, sweat, and tears of the Israelites. Stock exchange, and eventually it became the stock exchange. Right? Y'all see this? This is history. See? Hope y'all seeing this. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Let's go to the history real quick. To Josephus. Right here. Let's go right here where they thought to fit to compass the city roundabout, right? Let's start at 1. We're in the Josephus now. Chapter and verse.
This is Wars of the Jews, book 5, chapter 12.
A matter of fact, before you go there, Elder Lawyer, let's get Romans 11. Now, brothers and sisters, when they talk about Israelites, brothers and sisters, and they're seeking to demonize the awakening, they're not going to go into any of this history we're showing you. They're not going to go into any of these history we're showing you about. Look, this is an actual, folks, this is an actual original carving in the walls of a Roman Colosseum that you can find. You can see this till this day. How is the Roman Catholic Church, the disciples, and the people who pillaged Jerusalem? They can't be the same. Right? Look at this. Look at it. They stole our gold to begin their markets, to control the markets, to set up their markets, including the trading of people. Let's read it, Elder Lawyer. Romans 11 and 11.
Romans 11, verse number 11.
Come on.
I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall?
Shall they stumble that they should fall? Right? Shall they stumble that they should fall? That means what? Have the Israelites stumbled that we should be in a low condition? Are we going to be in this condition forever? Read.
God forbid.
No, read.
But rather through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy.
But because of our fall, salvation have come to the Gentiles. Because we fell, the whole world got rich now. It's going to show you. Read.
Verse 12. Now if the fall of them be the riches of the world.
So the fall of us meant what?
The riches of the world.
The whole world got rich after the fall of Jerusalem. Why do you think they came against Christ when Christ beat them out of the temple? They wanted to do their exchange and money system from the temple first, to control the earth's finances and bring in a new world order under one currency. They wanted that back then. To control the people using a financial system. See? Read it.
Now if the fall of them be the riches of the world.
The whole world got rich when Jerusalem fell. Read.
And the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles.
That means the lower we become, the lower we are, they measure their power and how rich they are by how low they can make us become. That's how they measure their riches. Their riches and their wealth is measured by how low we are. As we're diminished, it shows how rich they are. Huh? Read.
How much more their fullness?
How much more when the Most High give us back what was taken? If the Most High made the whole earth rich, how much more when the Most High put us in position? Now understand this. Hence the reason why we're seeing the moving around of Gentiles and all that into the places we live. Into the inner cities and all that. China going into Africa and all that. This is what's going on right now, folks. They're building a trench around us after first turning us totally poor within our communities. And now they're looking to stomp us out as they did in 70 AD. Same thing. Let's go. Let's read it in the Josephus real quick. Right here, Elder Lawyer, chapter and verse.
Wars of the Jews, book number 5, paragraph number 3.
Great work, folks. Hit the like button. Come on. Read it.
It says, so all hope of escaping was now cut off from the Jews.
All hope of escaping was now cut off from the Jews. So now, this is how they did it. During Nero's time, they claimed that there was some terrorist activity going on amongst the black Jews, the Israelites, and claimed we burnt the markets. Similar to some of the stories you're hearing now about they claim that Israelites did things in their community. Same thing, nothing new under the sun. But guess what? When you look at their stories, they can't tie none of these stories they claim that Israelites has done with groups. But they don't care if you can't tie it together. They're tying it together for you. Because they need the political high ground to come against the awakening. There's groups out there who are operating now like those the Romans smashed for going against the empire back then. You just can't recognize them. But this is why we're giving you the lesson to say, okay, this is how you recognize who's who according to the word. See? And now what happens? Years later, what happens because of that justified the Romans placing military and police forces in the cities. Instead of us policing ourselves, we were now adjusted to foreigners who had no interest in our people policing us. Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar? So they used the so-called threat of terrorism to say, well, listen, and don't forget, our politicians agreed with it. Well, this is what we're going to do. Don't come against our country. What we'll do is we'll allow you to have strangers come in and police us. And initially, they were just doing all the nice stuff we needed. You know, breaking up little things, coming through if there's any issues, getting the cat out of the tree. You know, the regular old stuff that we'll be used to. See? But then there was a declaration because there was a revolution, a revolt that led to them saying, well, you know what? We just destroyed this man, but others scattered amongst Jerusalem and they're hiding out. We need to quarantine and we need to go against these people before another uprising. Now the citizenry of Rome was now behind the Republic against us. And I need y'all to check this out now. This is why they finance things like Black Lives Matter and protests. And every other year during the liberal, they talk about black, white, someone getting shot because they need these rebellions so that they can relate it to the rebellions during the time Jerusalem fell. They need justification. Black Lives Matter are these right-wing Marxists who are looking to topple the country. And now all of the Romans or the conservative whites are now standing to preserve their way of life against an internal enemy. But the problem is they've related all of this activity and made our face the face of it. This is why I told brothers and sisters, don't ever go out to their marches. Don't ever go out to their protests because you don't understand history. Don't go out to their protests. Don't be a part of it because nothing ever changed after you do it anyway. They're going to use this for the conversation within the Senate, Congress, to say, let's shape some laws to now go against these people. They'll move Black Lives Matter out of the way and attack us. See? That's why when they had this NFAC, not effing around crew and all these other COINTELPRO groups talking about, yeah, we got to take up arms and all that. Why do you think they're doing that? And then they use these other Israelites who come from nowhere that no one knows, like this Sakari character that no one knows or give any credibility to, and got him running around with guns with a video showing him as an Israelite with a gun. At a camp. You can't see this? You have to really recognize what this is. They're shaping a narrative to go against the awakening because us knowing we're Israel and coming back to Christ is the only true understanding these evil ones cannot oppose. It's the true awakening of God's people that threatens the empire spiritually. See? It's the only thing. You can have the freedom to be a Satanist. You can have the freedom to be a KKK member. You can have the freedom to be transgender and have a religion where you lead a church as a transgender. You have the right to be a nihilist. You have the right to believe nothing. But our people cannot believe we're Israelites. Think about that. This is the only so-called religion in the land of the free that no one has the right to practice. Why? Because you know what? It unlocks everything. Read it, Elder Lawyer.
says here, this is Wars of the Jews, Book 5, Chapter 12, Paragraph 3.
Come on.
So all hope of escaping was now cut off from the Jews, together with their liberty of going out of the city. Then did the famine widen its progress.
So what did they do? They built a trench around Jerusalem and didn't allow any food or water in. Vespasian and Titus. That's right. A famine. Now, this was an engineered famine, but a famine nonetheless. We're going to make scarcity. Now, y'all don't know how famines work out, folks, or how they start. Look at all these factories that they claim, chicken factories that were burned a couple of years ago and no one could explain what happened to it. Cows falling out dead in factories and all that. But not just that, folks. Here's another way of famine. Let's raise the price of everything on poor people. Let's raise the prices of everything. So now they cannot get the same food they used to get. They can't afford it. We'll weaken them and we'll finance the immigrants with their tax money to come in so that we can wage social warfare against the poor to stomp them out once and for all. See? This is how they do it. And they use our people, politicians, to push it forth, called Democrats. And these people are the enemy of our people. They're willing to sell us out. They're willing to sell us out for a position with Rome. Read on, Elder Lawyer.
Says here, then did the famine widen its progress and devour the people by whole houses and families. The upper rooms were full of women and children that were dying by famine.
The women and children were dying by famine. Read.
And the lanes of the city were full of dead bodies of the aged. The children also and the young men wandered about the marketplaces like shadows. All swelled with the famine, and fell down dead wheresoever their misery seized them.
Wherever their misery seized them. Now they had to demonize first, Elder, before they got to the point where there was political justification to destroy the people. Look at this, folks. AJC Global Voice. Who are the black Israelites? Even though no one have named themselves black Israelites. What do the black Hebrew Israelites believe? Not a religion, but a philosophy. The state of anti-Semitism in America. So they put this term in place against no other people but us. They're not talking about white people being anti-Semite. The KKK been in existence for how long? And you don't hear them talking about the KKK anymore being anti-Semitic. So they ain't talking about the Asians being anti-Semitic. So this whole thing, anti-Semitism, is in place, focusing on who? Let's read it. Again. Anti-Semitism in America, and they highlight who? Same thing they did to justify coming against Jerusalem. Not all black Jews are black Hebrew Israelites. Now, don't go to them to find out what an Israelite is, okay? The Bible teaches who Israelites are, okay? Look at this. Tough questions of the anti-Israel BDS movement answered. Hebrew Israelite history in 4 waves. They're going to let us know what the history of the children of Israel are in the earth. Right? It's become political now, folks. Test your anti-Semitism knowledge. Radical Hebrew Israelites and fake Jews. They go into one West. So now it can no longer be hid, and now that they can't dismiss it anymore, it's become political. Well, that leads to a rise in them coming against our people in the inner cities, because the Christian churches no longer have the same influence they once had politically to control and keep the status quo of the empire. Look what they call them. Now, I thought extremists were Islamic extremists. Now, look at this. I told you when they put that in place, it had nothing to do with Arabs, right? Because if they were trying to stop Arab extremists from propagating in the United States, they wouldn't allow them to come over here and set up shop and mosques and all these things. I told you they're going to start with the Arabs and end out on us. Extremist sects within the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. So now they're singling out politically the radicals like they did during the time of the disciples, folks, the time of Christ, to justify them moving on these particular groups. Did I tell you? Look at that. Showing the 12 tribe sign. Extremist ideology, they going into it. Important reoccurring BHI phases. Look at this. Look at this. Look what they got there. Now, even though they throw this one in, this one right here is really no impact amongst Israelites at all. And I'm still looking at this because this right here, this doesn't move the needle right here. But all the things that justify them actually coming against Israelites, you'll find being done amongst these guys here. Conveniently. House of Israel. Here's another one. Now, let me tell you, I don't believe it's anything wrong with someone out teaching the Bible. More people should teach and learn about the Bible and laws, statutes, and commandments of God. I'm not against any of that. But the reality is you have to understand how what you do and what you say, how it can be politically used against one to destroy the same people you claim you're helping. This is where the disciples come in at. This is where Christ comes in at. Now, they already got these groups lined up because it relates to things they can prove amongst the political side that these people or these groups must have said or done something extreme that they can now politically come against them according to what? The data they have on how they came against us in 70 AD. Just because some of these groups was Israelites, it didn't mean anything outside of whether or not, listen to me clearly, it didn't mean anything if they was going to use that position to get their own people destroyed. And no one actually goes into the different factions of Israelites that end up getting destroyed. And you know what? It was justifiably so. Because Christ never said to make a rebellion against the empire and threaten the empire of what they're going to do to the people of Rome when Christ come back. Christ never told people to say things like that. Let's get where the woman end up eating her own baby, Elder Lloyd. When you go into it here. I'm sorry about that. You good?
Yep. Let's get the reference here.
Let's get the reference. See, and I had to relate it, folks, to the past and what we see today, because a lot of you y'all don't know what was going on politically before our people fell in Jerusalem. Y'all have no idea. Y'all don't have no idea there was different groups acting out outside of prophecy and all that many people follow. So just because you're an Israelite doesn't mean you're under the guidance of Christ. There's levels to this. I would never suggest anyone get on the corner and start telling people or trying to claim that you're going to do something to another race of people that's against God's law. I would never suggest that. That's wrong. You can't talk out of two sides of your mouth. You can't say that Israel need to come back for disobeying God and then say on the other side, well, we're going to do something to you for actually coming against our people who God said, who God sent against our people. You can't talk out of both sides. You have to tell our people, these people are going to do what they're going to do, but you're hedged if you do this. We can't stop the Romans from being Romans. We can't stop the Edomites from doing what they're going to do, but we can control what we do. We can be civil. We can respect one another. We can love our enemies as ourselves. We can walk in Christ and be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Now, it depends on whether or not you're here for the true gospel, or to hear to boast yourself that your existence is above Christ's. See, Christ tell us how to navigate. Let's read it, Elder Lord.
Yes, sir. Wars of the Jews, Book 6, verse 201.
Come on.
There was a certain woman that dwelt beyond Jordan. Her name was Mary. Her father was Eleazar of the village of Bethazuz, which signifies the house of hyssop. She was eminent for her family and her wealth, and had fled away to Jerusalem with the rest of the multitude, and was with them besieged therein at this time. The other effects of this woman had been already seized upon, such as she had brought with her out of Perea, and removed to the city, which she had treasured up besides, as also what food she had contrived to save, had been also carried off by the rapacious guards, who came every day running into her house for that purpose. This put the poor woman in a very great passion, and by frequent reproaches and imprecations she cast at these rapacious villains, she had provoked them to anger against her, but none of them, either out of the indignation she had raised against herself, or out of the commiseration of her case, would take her life away. And if she found any food, she perceived her labors were for others, and not for herself. And it was now become impossible for her any way to find any more food, while the famine pierced through her very bowels and marrow.
So here's a woman of reputation who was getting starved out during the siege. So what happens is they slowly but surely does what? What do? They start making it where what? You don't have access to food, or they make food so high that one cannot afford it. So here it is. But back then, it was barbaric. It was just no food they were allowing amongst Jerusalem, because those who didn't take heed to Christ's warning. Now, those who understood what Christ was established things well before this happened and had a plan according to Christ's prophecy. The others who thought Jerusalem was going to go on forever, here we go. They fell to the plagues, the destruction, the fall of Jerusalem. Read.
She then attempted a most unnatural thing, and snatching up her son, who was a child suckling at her breast, she said, O thou miserable infant, for whom I shall preserve thee in this war, this famine, and this sedition. As to the war with the Romans, if they preserve our lives, we must be slaves.
She said, if they preserve our lives, we must serve them. Read.
This famine will also destroy us, even before that slavery comes upon us.
Come on.
Yet are these seditious rogues more terrible than both the other.
Come on.
Come on. Be thou my food, and be thou a fury to these seditious varlets, and a byword to the world, which is all that is now wanting to complete the calamities of us Jews.
Now this is written of history, the fall of Jerusalem by Josephus, Flavius Josephus. The accounts of what happened, the heinous, barbaric way our people lost Jerusalem. She ended up deleting her child and eating her child to sustain. When they came in, when the barbarians of our people came into the house, they wrestled the half a baby that she ate from her. Fulfilling Deuteronomy 28. Folks, why am I going here? When Christ when he looked over Jerusalem and wept, the disciples and everyone was like, why are you weeping? He's seen the future for our people, knowing the plans of the Roman Empire to utterly destroy us. And none of us understand what that looks like. And we're volunteering ourselves to be destroyed. We're volunteering ourselves. We're listening to the liberal movement, not realizing that's the movement that demonized us to the world. And at the same time, they're bringing in replacements, a trench around us, and they're not bringing these people in for refuge, I don't think, allegedly. I believe, my opinion, is that they're bringing them in to war against our people in the cities. And there's more than one form of war. There's political war, societal war. Don't forget, the Romans were very patient before they had the moral high ground to destroy us altogether. This is one thing. If I'm afraid of something, looking at history, knowing that history is replete, it's one thing that I fear, and I believe that's going to happen. I believe that something's going to happen in one of these groups, probably the Sakari character, because no one is really feeling that like that, because it's a thing that's total that actually play into the stereotypes of what they would utilize to demonize Israelites. I don't know if it's going to be him or some other ones, but someone is going to do something to justify the government coming against people wholesale who claim to be Israelites out on those corners. And it's not going to stop at the corners. It's going to go all the way through for those who didn't listen. Because if you can say outright that you're going to do something as heinous as harm or do something to someone's child and put that out there publicly, folks, there'll be no one to stand with you when the government comes against you. You can't claim that you're being taken into prison or being destroyed for Christ's sake. No. No, you're not going to be able to claim that. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go into more of the history as we go into the academy, but for time's sake, here's the issue we deal with amongst our people. Let's go to Psalms, Elder Lawyer, 62 and 10.
Book of Psalms, chapter 62, verse number 10.
Hold that and get Isaiah 30 and 12. And I want to show you all this, folks. This is why I keep coming back to this study that was done by the Satanists, where they started charting blacks in America's attitude towards the state of Israel, the Jewish people who are in Israel. They did a poll, folks. Why do they care what we feel about them? Why have they been monitoring our religious gatherings and opinions? Why? You fear that we're going to go into the Bible and realize that the African Americans aren't African Americans, but are the Israelites or the Jews that the Bible speaks of? So why would they care about our attitude if it didn't have a profound effect politically on what's going on in the earth? It's called the Philos Project. And I believe this has nothing to do with Christianity. My opinion is this is a Zionist poll to see whether or not our people have found out that we're the children of Israel and are going to operate accordingly because of it. I keep going back to this study because I'm like, who's keeping data on us? We don't keep data on you. But check this out, folks. I'm going to show you why they took this poll. And this poll happened before the code of 2020. They was curious of how we feel about them, especially black Christians. Now, there's one thing in particular. They asked all black people, African Americans, do we support Israel's statehood? And they'd seen this. 30% said, not sure. 7% says, strongly disagree. 11% says, somewhat disagree. Almost 50% of those who go to church, see, they say 52% support, but that means 48% of the people who go to church don't agree with what's going on in Israel. That's a problem for them. Right? More. Check this out. Let me go here, down here. %39% say that international community denies the state of Israel basic recognition as a nation. That means almost 50% of our churchgoers, black people in church, are saying, nah, we don't recognize that. Now that's alarming because the majority of Christian churches once 100% supported the state of Israel at one point. But not until our people started figuring out that there's a possibility that we may be the people. See? And this is why they're keeping tallies on this. Right? Now I need y'all to go here. Check it out. Three out of 10 agree with the subtle anti-Semitic statement that these people control American finances. 3 out of 10. That's too large of a number of black people to believe this. Because if we believe that they control the finances and we're looking at our financial status, we'll start to believe that they have something to do with our low condition. Right? And this, folks, this is supposed to be a Christian poll. And why do they care about a people who follow a religion that outright deny Christ? I need y'all to check that out too. Shouldn't you be for Christ? Look at this. 41% agree that the state of Israel has laws that discriminate against the Palestinian people. So here it is, black Christians in America, almost half is saying they don't agree with what's going on over there. Right? Look at this. 19% agree with the anti-Semitic statement that the Jew people are blocking black progress in the U.S. Why are they polling Christians on this? Black Christians. Why don't they care? Were they waiting for a time to know when to begin the destruction on Jerusalem? Were they waiting for a certain number of the children of Israel to wake up to now come up with their final political solutions against our people in the cities? When I say they, I'm talking about the Lifeway research. because they're the guys doing the research. These Christian people here are doing the research. They're so concerned with how we feel about what's going on politically in the Middle East. 49% believe Martin Luther King Jr. was a strong supporter of the Jewish people. Why do you care? Right? Look. But there's something more telling here. 41% agree that the formation of modern Israel is a fulfillment of the covenant with Jewish people. But guess what? 49% don't agree with this in the Christian church, or are not sure. That's a problem for them. Because if black Christians in Christian church are now questioning the validity of them being the people, then now this tells those who's taking the poll that our people are starting to come to the knowledge that we might be the people of Jerusalem. %28 agree that they're seeing more people express anti-Semitism than in the past. There's a rise in black people not agreeing to the political status or the political example of the state of Israel that's pushed through media. Check this out, folks. 62% agree that God's promise of the land of Israel to Abraham and his descendants was for all time. That's Christians. Well, what do the other 38% believe? So I thought Christians said it doesn't matter, that it's not through blood. Jew or Greek, bond or free. So if it doesn't matter according to Christians who are taking this poll, why would they care whether or not black African Americans in church believe that they're from the seed of Abraham? But check this out. They even got Farrakhan in here. But I digress. I'll be dealing with him on something different. They even got 3 out of 10 say they were aware that Black Lives Matter's platform on Israel included these positions. They even got Black Lives Matter. Why? Because these are the protesters that gets us out to where they can politically align themselves to come against our people. Right? 62% are not familiar with black Hebrew Israelites' teachings. Now it heats up. Because down here, folks, look at this. 4%. These are people in the church now, folks, black people. I consider myself a Hebrew Israelite. Now, no one say black Hebrew Israelites because no one know what that nonsense is. The media created that black Hebrew Israelite term. You have 4% who says, I know I'm an Israelite, who came from the church. 19% says, I agree with most of the core ideas taught by the Israelites. Well, that's 23%. 9% say they disagree with it. Well, that's over what? That's 28, that's 32%, right? That's 33% because even though these people disagree, they may convert by knowing about Israelites. Then you got 6% who says that they oppose the teachings. I firmly oppose it. Only 6%, folks, in the Christian church, polling black people. Why do they care? Why do they care about black people and our views on whether or not we're Israelites? Why are Christians keeping this poll? 33% says they have Jewish friends. Why would a Christian poller keep these polls, folks? if they're not doing what? If they're not charting the prophecies concerning the awakening. They want to know whether or not their programming in the churches over our people is it still has taken effect, and if so, by how much? Because if it's the contrary, if our people believe that we're Israelites in the churches, it's a problem. It's a problem politically. And eventually we'll start having the same ideas we had as a people in past times and during the times of Christ. We'll start thinking that, you know what? We're not predisposed to captivity. We weren't meant to serve these nations forever and disrupt the status quo. So this is why it doesn't matter, folks. This is why when you look at the numbers, 15 to 20,000 immigrants from all over the world is being incentivized to be in our neighborhoods all over the place. They're building a trench around us in these cities, and not just here. They started 2 years ago when China went into Africa. It's about to happen again. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Let's round it out. Let's read what we have, Isaiah 30 and 12. This is how they're able to keep the status quo, to keep us still enough to destroy our people. Because what? There's nothing new under the sun. The disciples were teaching, the prophets taught, and our people still did what? Operated as if a change wasn't coming, as if prophecy was going to escape them. Let's read it. Isaiah 30 and 12.
Yes, sir. Wherefore thus saith the Holy One of Israel, because ye despise this word, and trust in oppression and perverseness.
See, our people trust in oppression and perverseness. What do it mean, trust in oppression? We think that our existence in of itself lies with our oppression, lies within the empire. And we trust that the government will continually take care of us. We think we are entitled to a government taking care of us. Well, what happens when they refuse to do so? So the government have enough people who trust in oppression, where the liberal satanic Democrats can sell a dream while they destroy our children, buying time enough to destroy us and to replace us altogether through promises. Because they know that who do you think they're pandering to when they say hope, change? The people who ruling things aren't looking for change. So who are they speaking to with these ridiculous slogans? Hope, change. So when you hear these particular slogans, understand they're dog whistling, silent whistling to those who need hope and change, when those who rule aren't seeking to change the status quo. So our people trust in oppression. You're going to get what you've been getting and worse now that we know we're Israel, and we must understand and live with that understanding. It's nonsense that I'm hearing all over the place. People still talking about reparations. We've been enslaved in the land since the beginning, and through all that time, even the North American Indians, well, don't forget the $5 Indians now. Anyone can claim to be an Indian. Received plantation casinos as well as finances for their so-called plight when the government overran them. We've been here since chattel slavery, and even Japanese came over here and was in internment camps and got money in a country where our people were enslaved. World War I and World War II came around. And then the state of Israel was made out of the sympathy that came through the Holocaust. And they're still being financed. But yet, we're still here thinking that it's good that America is talking about reparations. Well, if they're going to do something for you, brothers and sisters, they're not going to talk about it. It's only kicking the can down the road long enough to destroy and replace you. Look at history. Our people understanding we're Israel and not just us, because they concentrate on the African Americans, because the Bible stated that Judah would wake up the rest of the tribes. That's why they concentrated, and they don't care about other people, whether or not you're in a Catholic church or other places. They've been charting us from the beginning, because it was prophesied that we would wake up the 12 tribes of Israel. And they're only using politics to kick us down the road, our people in hope, until they find a way to get rid of you. And don't tell me they don't have the money, because it costs more money to bring immigrants by the tens and hundreds of thousands into America than to give our people reparations. It takes more money to fund the war in Ukraine of people that have nothing to do with us. It costs them to do that. Don't tell me there's no money. But folks, the Bible tell you what the problem is. Read it again. We trust in oppression.
Yes, sir. Get you out of the way. In fact, verse number 12, wherefore thus saith the Holy One of Israel, because ye despise this word.
You despise the word of God. You won't come on cold like it said in the Bible. Read.
And trust in oppression and perverseness and stay thereon.
We trust in our perverse state and we stay thereon. And do what?
It says, and trust in oppression and perverseness and stay thereon. Therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall.
A breach ready to fall. The fall of Jerusalem. It's like a breach. They'll temporarily just give your so-called political and religious leaders just enough to keep you still, while replacing and destroying your children. That's the plan. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Only two more. Psalm 62 and 10.
Psalm 62 verse 10.
Read.
Trust not in oppression and become not vain in robbery.
It says, trust not in oppression and do not become vain in robbery. We trust in oppression. We're not looking to come back to God to get out of this condition permanently. Instead, we revert to robbing and killing and stealing and destroying our own, just to sustain, and use that as a justification. We use our condition as a reason or a justification for destroying our own people. While the whole world watches and think to themselves without saying aloud how we promote it through our movies, our culture, through the music. Silently, the other nations are saying, if they would do this to themselves and do such harm to each other, how can we ever trust them amongst our people and our children? How long will it be before they influence and destroy our children like they've allowed the destruction of themselves? Mm-hmm. This is what they're thinking without saying it. And these are the people that are coming over the border. Elder Lawyer, one more.
Yes, sir.
Let's get Matthew 15 and 14.
Say Matthew 15, verse number 14.
Read.
Let them alone.
The Bible says, let them alone.
They be blind leaders of the blind.
They'll be blind leaders of the blind. So this is not to say that people are supposed to go to City Hall and curse out the politicians and try to force these leaders to see what's right and all that. guess what, folks? They've taken their pay. They have no desire to do outside of what they're doing. And this is why Christ says, leave them alone. You think the disciples were trying to force the Pharisees, scribes, and those who was accusing and were against them, force them to see the right path? No. The disciples set forth the path in preparation for the fall of Jerusalem, knowing that our people would need refuge. And they did this without publicizing it all over the place and trying to force the blind to see. Only God can open the eyes of the blind. And that's where a lot of people, you make a mistake believing that you can influence or wake someone up. And sometimes you have to know when to leave well enough alone and know that when the word of God is being spoken, at that moment, if you understand, it's for you. That's why it says in the Bible over and over again, he that have an ear, let him hear. It wasn't meant for everyone else to hear. And what you're going to do is you're going to hit a hornet's nest, and the enemy will be directed into destroying you and yours. You have to know when it's time for what? Righteous self-preservation. The blind leaders of the blind, read.
Let them alone.
Leave them alone.
They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind...
Their blind is there so that they can lead the rest of the blind who want to do what? Walk through this earth without any level of accountability. Who want the status quo. Who would only seek the life they have to trust in oppression. So these leaders were set up to lead their own. Leave them alone. Let the blind lead the blind. If they don't got enough sense to look into their Bible and see that Christmas is not in the Bible, Sunday worship is not in the Bible, Easter's not in the Bible, this is what they want to do. Leave them alone. Okay, leave them alone. If someone inquires, then that's something else. But if you're not in a position where the Most High have appointed you to teach and have the skill to do so, let it be. Read.
And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch.
Both shall fall in a ditch. This is why Christ even told the guy who was like, yeah, man, this news is good, man. Let me go to my father's funeral and then I'll follow you. Christ says, man, let the blind bury the blind. Now, what does that mean? That seems what? Unfeeling, uncaring. Christ knew that his father was blind and everybody that was there was against what was right. He said, listen, I'm here. I'm life and life everlasting. Let the dead bury the dead. Come follow me. And if anyone's right at that funeral, I'm going to resurrect them anyway in the day of judgment. Let the dead bury the dead. See? So it comes a time where you have to say, well, okay, what is my mission in Christ? What is my direction? And how I escape what's coming. You can't get wrapped up into it. You can't be out into any revolts, any rebellion. When the so-called liberal Democrats try to come and tell you that there was a cop shooting and all that, you can't be a part of none of that. It's the Satanists who are behind all these agendas and are looking to pull you in to justify the conservatives having the moral high ground to squash you like they squashed our people in Jerusalem. Matthew 10 and 16, Elder Lawyer. Let's read it.
St. Matthew 10, verse number 16.
Come on.
Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves.
I send you forth as sheep among wolves. Be very careful here. You have no idea the people they're letting into these countries, folks. Who they opening the floodgates to. You have no idea. And the majority of these people that they're bringing over, they come from thousands of years Thousands of years of conditioning, being conditioned under a caste system. Under a caste system. To view whether or not they need to respect or honor anyone based on the color of their skin. And the darker you are, the less respect is given. So you have no idea the people they're letting in. Automatically, you can have a cat that was collecting straws and can't rub two nickels together, but is lighter than you. He gets off of the plane believing that his status is above you strictly based on how you look. You don't know a racist when you don't know a racist, folks, unless you've been or understand a country it's systemic when it comes to an outright caste system that all people respect and abide by, even those who are dark. They expect to be treated less than in these countries. I was over in Egypt and different places. I see how the Sudanese are utilizing how they're looked upon in Egypt. How automatically their mentality is subservient to the Arabs, even the Greek Arabs that are over there. They feel subservient to them coming over the border. Now, I got a whole discussion on this coming Wednesday, but I digress, folks. You have no idea. And guess what? You think they're allowing these people that's coming over, tens of thousands per day, you think they're going to be in these red states where these conservatives are with property and land and all that? You think they're going to be amongst them? No, that's why they don't care, because this is the destruction of Jerusalem. This is how now Israel is being compassed by armies through stealth. See, people are looking for the jackboots to come in with uniform. Oh no, they're coming in with plain clothes. Not just in America, all over the world. They've already taken over the UK. Read that last piece of the lawyer.
Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves.
Come on.
Be ye therefore wise as serpents.
Be wise as serpents. He said, listen, guess what? With all this knowledge, much is required. And I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. You have no idea the demons hell have let loose amongst your people. Be very careful out there. They're seeking souls. I send you out as sheep among wolves. What?
Be ye therefore wise as serpents.
Be wise. Understand the world we're living in. You're living in. Understand the world. Understand geopolitically what led to the fall of Jerusalem, and understand they're doing it on another level, but it's the same outcome nonetheless. You have to be wise, knowing that their real target, even if they operate indirectly, is you. Don't ever follow liberal agendas, no matter how much they try to make you believe it's a black cause. Liberal is evil. Liberal is evil. Everything that's wrong with the world, they've attached to the Democrat Party and made our people the face of it. One party says that they want babies to live. The other party is saying, well, no, I should have the right to delete a baby. One party is saying we need family intact for existence. The other party is saying we are going to redefine family and turn family upside down for change. Now, there are two wings of the same bird, but at the end of it, why should our people participate with the one wing that's destroying us? And my example is when people try to say, well, hold up, man. Are you saying you're Republican? Because that's the Jedi mind trick they have you as an answer when you don't have one. You automatically revert to the other side. Well, I'm going to give you an example. that kills that argument, because this is the, I would say, the circular prison, the prison that our people are in mentally. The example I can give is, if you have a house or an apartment, and there's someone who's already in the house with the door and locked the door behind them to destroy your family, and there's another one outside with a red coat on who didn't get inside yet, who are you going to deal with first? You have to deal with the chaos who came in your house and locked themselves in with you. And the example I can give is that what? Look at the inner cities and all these cities that have been run by Democrats. You can't blame the conservatives to how our people are destroyed, dying, diseased, and now are being replaced. You can't blame them on the outside when they've destroyed us inside as liberals. So I'm not saying that the Republicans are all to end all. I'm saying, why not first deal with the one who've locked themselves in the house with you? With that, shalom. That concludes our lesson when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem. I hope that you'll look at this historically and understand its value and follow Christ's path through all this. And with much lieth within you, even if you know you're Israel, be at peace with all men. With that, I'm going to say shalom, blessings. Thank you for all your support. If you would like to support this ministry, go to gatheringofchrist.org. Look under donate, because we're going to need finances to continue this thing and what we're planning to help our people. And if you have Cash App, and these particular lessons like Wednesday, Friday updates, as well as the Sabbath, serves and help you through life, please bless us as we impart in you our spiritual gifts. Help us finish financially. You can also go to Cash App if you have that. $ GOCC 144 donate if you have Cash App. Help us spread the word. The children of Israel are back. We're back, but in the name of Christ. With that, shalom. May the Most High be with you. Stay prayed up. Sin not. We will soon see Zion. See you in the academy tomorrow. We'll be going into, that's right, the fall of Sodom and Gomorrah. Shalom.
I opened up the book and see that the apple of your eye included me. And through the tribulation, I know I must stand. For a new heaven, a new earth, show me the way to Zion. I'm on my knees, laying my life on the line. I'm begging, please, please don't let me fall.